good to go. We've probably got one or two more people who will turn up, but they're delayed by transport.
And what do you think we should do about that? Because you need me to talk to reception and get someone to ferry them across?
We did
You
already.
did, you've done that, bless you.
So that should be fine.
All right, marvellous. So for those of you who've just arrived, we are glad to see you. And I've just been doing some introductions, so I will do a shortened version of my introductions. When we're ready. Hello, I'm Jane Boston and head of the International Centre here, and welcome to Central, welcome to this workshop. I just was telling you that if you need the loos, they're either on this floor or the one above. And we'll take a break at about 7:30, but take a break whenever you need, or just let me know how you're feeling, what you're doing, about your exhaustion, if you're exhausted or bored or fed up. The other thing, we switched off mobile phones. The other thing we did was suggest, if you're willing and interested, to take shoes off and feel the ground, feel the sprung floor in the clean rehearsal room. This is news many people about what are the other rooms like. Exactly. It doesn't actually look that clean, but I think it's meant to be so you can not have it marked up by stage managers, and it should be just a nice moving space. But I think it's a nice space for us today. So, I think really, I want to hear from you one thing, and just one thing only, which is really, say your name to us, and I think you probably know each other more than I know anybody. And I just want to know just very briefly, your relationship to Blake, in one word or two, just to let us drop that into the pot. And anything that you've got specifically in mind that you would like out of the workshop tonight. I don't want us to take long about this, but it's just to make sure you're not just listening to me, but that your wants and needs are sort of in the room. So if we might go round to my right, your name, something about Blake, and what you'd like out of the workshop.
My name is Sarah. The word that sums up my relationship to Blake at the moment is awe.
Yes.
And I'd just like to learn how to speak a little.
My name is Nick Duncan. My relationship to Blake, well, it's sort of excitement, I guess, as much as anything. About all its dimensions and its possibilities. What I'm hoping to learn here is probably to be able to embody some of the different voices in the work.
Thank you, Nick.
I'm Adriana. My relationship to Blake, I think, is inspiration, life from that. And I am hoping similarly to embody the different complexities of Blake and hopefully to pronounce English properly.
Thank you, lovely.
Hi, I'm Tim. Relationship with Blake, prophet of the imagination, auspicious vision, divine vision. I don't know, 100 million words. Particularly pin anyone. I don't have any particular expectation.
Thank you.
Jump in.
Thank you, Tim.
I'm Eleanor. My relationship with Blake is only just beginning. I joined the society very recently as an impetus to try and read more Blake and learn more about Blake, because I know what I like, but I don't know much. And I've only ever read poetry silently, and I'd love to hear it read aloud, and I'd like to see if I can read it and how to make it sound as good as it sort of looks on the page.
Sure, pretty good. Thank you. It's great ambitions. Great.
I'm Anthony. Relationship with Blake, constantly challenged by his visions. And what I expect today, well, maybe just to be able to feel his spirit more deeply as I utter his words.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina. I suppose, like Adriana, inspiration really, and just different ways of possibly reading Blake. I haven't really tried to read him before.
Out loud.
Thank you.
My name is Olivia. I suppose excitement as well would have to be my relationship to Blake. And I'm just looking forward to learning and understanding more, really.
Thank you.
I'm Richard. I was introduced to Blake's work by my father many years ago. I can remember going to the Tate Gallery, Tate Britain now, with him. But I'm also interested in spoken verse and all kinds. That's not something I learned from my father. So I'd like to be able to participate with others in sharing our love of Blake.
Lovely. So the visual element came first for you, in essence?
Oh, with my father.
With your
He was more
father.
of an artist. Yes.
Sure. Lovely, thank you.
My name's Andrew Atwood. The first poem I think ever really shook me was Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright, and that sort of really struck me so powerfully. I would just like to learn to read a poem.
Yeah. Nice.
My name is Isabel, and I'm very interested in the relationship between the imaginary vision and the actual vision which Blake put on paper. But it's going to be very nice to hear the works.
Thank you.
My name is Chile. I like Blake for its imagination and the imagery. And I would like to learn to read aloud properly.
Sure. Margaret, thank you.
And I'm Naomi. I think Blake as visionary, and I suppose I want to explore how to vocalise that.
Sure. I think you're in the right space for Thank you. Tim.
My name is Tim. Blake is a great companion. I'm here to discover how to read a text you cannot understand.
Margaret, thank you.
Oh, me?
No, no.
My name is Ella, and I'm tracing Blake's narrative tactics and his shifts. And it's amazing to be here. It's amazing for me to be. I came from Poland.
We're glad to have you.
Just for a couple of days.
Wow. Lovely.
To meet you.
Excellent. Thank you.
I first started reading Blake when I was very young, and I used to drive home through London, stoned, and I'd get home to my parents' flat and open Blake, and I read unsystematically, but it always seemed to appeal to me. I felt he was speaking the truth, a kind of a truth, spiritual truth, and I've always been interested in visionaries. And then quite some time later, I set myself more of a serious study reading the prophetic books, probably a bit shortened, Milton and Jerusalem. And there's also things about Blake that annoy me. He's anti anything logical and rational, because I think the Age of Enlightenment brought a lot of great things. But I've been studying Joyce recently, who's another visionary. I live just around the corner, so when I heard about this, I thought I'd love to be part of it. And I'm very haunted by a lot of Blake's words. I find them running through my mind every now and then.
Marvellous.
So that's...
Well, it's great. I think buildings do hold memories as well, and I think the Central School of Speech and Drama is an interesting place to have this. I think it's an appropriate place for this workshop, and I've been associated with this place for many, many years in the locality, and I should think Blake's words have been spoken more than once in training here in different environments, so I think we're going to enrich that possibility tonight, definitely. The thing, very much thank you for that. It's clear, we place them in various places of awe and inspiration and admiration, and we've got to somehow find a connection tonight where we validate our own joy and awe and what it brings, what we bring to that table, as I mentioned earlier. And I think we can't achieve everybody's journey through their own individual text. That would be doing a disservice to the detail that we have in front of us. But what I want to do is several generic things that allow us to work the macro, the wider environment from ourselves. And it's something that works through a lot of voice training, which is to say, how can we find somewhat the mind of the man, somewhat the mind, as we get print. Print is what we have. Print, in many instances, for Blake, was like sculpture. It was tactile, it was material. So in a way, there's something that we have to do to get that stuff off the page as simple ink and revivify it or vivify it in a way that at least comes close to the way he was tussling and pummeling and working visually and with the print. And so one way I thought we might begin, just to sort of find our own entry point, is also sort of mapping the work. Now, I am right in understanding everybody has something that they brought tonight, is that right? A text of some sort?
I haven't, but I just did grab this. It's bits and pieces.
That's all right. Because we won't have an opportunity to hear the works in their entirety. This is where we are aiming to get to. And these are tools for you to deepen your process as you get closer to making your recording. But what we can do amongst each other is sort of break the fear and begin to find how we can get this body moving with the mind that we're trying to interpret and follow. So it will be a visual thing to begin with. It's often used in workshops. Instead of writing on the page, I want us just to take some colours and I want us to draw a map. So I'll just get the bits and bobs and I'll take 5 minutes to do this. It's literally to get your consciousness stirring, the unconscious. So what I've got here are various inks, pens, and just bits of colour. As we know, this is one of our great colourists. It felt like a good place to begin. I don't want anything worry about beauty or meaning. What I want us to do is literally to think about the text you have or you chanced upon. And all I want you to do in 5 minutes is you can scribble, you can leave it blank, you can put strange icons on a page, but something that takes you through that text. And you may in fact draw a little pathway through what are your encounters. What kind of encounters do you have? Are they with mountains? Are they with, is it vaporous? Is it solid? Is it an idea? Thousands of ideas. And if so, just try and find some kind of unconscious representation as a map. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, literally, and you can do that in any way that you like. So if you would like to help yourself to the bits and bobs, here's your paper. Paper this way round. Paper this way. And I'm literally going to ask us to down tools after 5. A map of the mind of the text you have.
How many colours do we have?
You can use as many as you like, bearing in mind that's all you've got for us all. Maybe you could just map your consciousness about Blade.
I'm not very drawn into
if you'd like to just use Word, that's fine. Just put some words. You're not limited to...
Yeah, I know the...
These add words, of course, as Blake would wish us to do that. Just one more minute and then we'll come to you. Okay, so you want to just finish up? Thank you.
Do you say blank?
Okay, so let's just put all the tools down, and that's fabulous. One of the theories I'm working on, and work on a lot with in training, is that the more vivid our own images are of the work we're about to approach, the stronger the reading will be for the listener. So if we feel we're lost entirely, and we don't have any purchase on any part of it, it gets more distant, it gets more diffuse if we just don't crack on in some way. But I think that the important thing is we've got this materialist, this man. The only time in my working life I've worked with someone who is a visual artist and a wordsmith, and the materiality of the process just seemed to be so connected. And here we've got language that he shapes and arises out of being. It's almost like he doesn't have a premeditative moment. It's created. So there's something about watching everybody there just putting something down or not, which is interesting.
You see, we are reading, I dipped into Zois.
Yeah.
Do you pronounce Zois? I've been doing tapestry in my life, and therefore I have chosen these verses. And it is mentioned here that there's a phenomenon called filmy woof. So I haven't an idea to present filmy woof. So I left a blank sheet of paper.
Not quite sure what that term is. Can anyone enlighten me? The term you're using there, filmy woof. Is that the weave?
Weave,
yes.
Yes, we use woof.
Oh, the woof. Okay, yeah, cool.
No, but here we are reading
Woof.
That's the word, woof. No, we are weaving.
Yes.
And using woof is a tool. Filmy woof and dreamy, somnambulic landscape. So I cannot present it.
You find there's no visual representation. I mean, we're going to find 1,000 things for all of us. I don't know what, Fred looks like, or this mythic or something. Whatever the detail at the moment, we've got to find we're coming from a big, big place. And we're trying to take one step forward to say, how are we going to speak this world with some, and we're going to hit, welcome.
Sorry, I just couldn't find it.
No problem, sorry. Welcome. Did nobody guide you?
Well, no, the cleaner, he just said it's in his box. So then I had to ring reception in the end, and they just sent to the clean rehearsal room.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. You're welcome. I'm Jane Boston. We've just done one exercise, so you're not far behind us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And what we've done is draw something to try and get the physicality of our relationship going to Blake's work in commensurate with the artist in some ways. And what I'm saying, let's put individual interpretive moments aside. We're trying to find the broadest possible entry, and so we will try and answer your detailed questions as we go. But at the moment, if we've got a wide opening, then we can start to narrow down to what we've got on the page. But this is an entry point. Can we find an entry point from where we sit right now? One of my theories is it's best if we can get some images in our mind. So whatever we don't know, it's best to go with what does resonate. What is it that is grabbing you at this particular moment that you can find a vision or connect to a feeling or a picture? Or because if it's all just a miasma of amazement, we're not really going to get much further down the line. So it's about trying to get something of some detail be in the mind's eye. And that may be just one image or two, something that is actually springing forward. It might just be light, and it might just be the light. It might be something of sound. It might be something that we don't know, but it's something that's on our map anyway. And we come to maps and we find ways that we can't go down, dead ends, we find openings, but this is really what we're embarking on, the mystery of that, I think. And I think hopefully we can help you with some of those details as we go. So you will, as individual readers, be more passionately engaged if you've got some images that are you're certain of, or at least being activated in your mind. And I think we've got to remember about his presence in his work, which is a bit like your presence as a reader in your work as reading. And that's the thing that's interesting. That's why each one of you have bothered to give up your evening to do something like this, is to think, well, what do I bring? You know, what of my human, my breath, my materiality, my experience, my capacity to imagine. And I think that's what we're trying to find today. And then we're starting to get to a reading that isn't so fearful. It's actually got a bit of three-dimensionality. Because we must, all of us, everyone in the room, I would imagine, has some anxiety, me too, about how do you pronounce these words. Some of you have got some answers, which is great. I don't have all the answers. In fact, it's the greatest thing open in the world of voice today is who determines how anything is pronounced. So what we have to do is make some good guesses and have some bold choices. And that good guesses and bold choices make better readings than hesitancy. So I think it's just trying to put that to you, to have some courage. All right, so what have you got on your papers? In a way, we're trying to find something that's been stirred. If nothing's been stirred, we'll try more provocations. It's just a question of going in again, and going in some more. So, would anybody like to just briefly say if anything was spurred by that drawing exercise just now? Anything on the page anyone wants to share with us?
Yeah, I have been looking at the Song of Lost, and the poem stirred up in a sort of sense of ancient knowledge. Adam in the Garden of Eden gets mentioned at least twice. And there's a huge sense of fire in it, although I don't know whether that's articulated, but that's what's in my mind. But also there is a sense of loss. So there's tears.
Okay, thank you. Lovely. Anybody else wants to jump in? We'll hear from everybody, so let's go round. Let's go round in order, just so we've got something into the pot.
Okay, well, I couldn't think of anything, because when I was told, but immediately I started like this other lady, I immediately what's his name? The creative one, yeah. The very fiery character, Lost Soul, and he's also Orc. It's just always like somebody with flames coming up. Very flamey, and all, the four giants all seem to be very elemental and different colours. So that, I've always had a very strong image, I realise without really thinking about it, of Lot and Orc and the revolutionary and spiritual warrior fighter.
Lovely, thank you. Do you want to say anything more about your black? Okay.
My left foot, and each toe is totally lost.
Thank you.
I've looked at the Last Judgment, and I've just mapped this sense of kind of the rise and vision, also kind of moments sparking off and the circle that kind of indicates that it's not one direction.
Lovely, thank you very much.
You've got to show us. The choice of my reading I would like to do is the Book of Loss. So it's about the fall of man, of human being, of human race. And so somehow the power of this blackness is so powerful, and whatever brightness, they just cannot penetrate it. So I draw the golden orb, the loss, anvil, and then there's a snake underneath, which is
Okay, thank you, Ray. Could be a good t-shirt. Yeah. Compression there. Rather than I didn't mean that facetiously. It's fun. It's fun when we find to see what's there. Yeah.
I've been looking at bits of Jerusalem,
yeah,
and the
rhyming bit, which is all about London and Jerusalem being in London, and the neighbourhoods very clearly defined, but all the time there's this question of what is Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is in some golden place with golden pillars, and this comes out later when Jerusalem is actually dealing with people, which is Joseph and Mary, and again it's shot through with gold and pillars.
Do you have anywhere in your mind, have you been anywhere that's golden? I mean, does it take you to a real place, or is it always metaphorical?
For me it's metaphorical.
Yeah, I'm interested in the first two stanzas of Tiger. And I can't get much past the sort of literal presentation of things, so I concentrate on the colour and try and get the shape. So it's a bit of an illustration really rather than a map.
That's lovely. Maps are just a term really, I think. I use map as well in a sense that it's used in sort of neuroscience a little bit, kind of a map of the mind, what parts of the mind and brain are being kind of activated by its work. It's slightly alluding to that, but on the other hand, it's just saying, how can we begin to find signposts or key points in an arc of the text? Because in many cases we're dealing with quite a lot of words, and it's not a contemporary matter to deal with a lot of words. So in any way we can just sort of move beyond one image to the next and try to think how key points pattern throughout the text. That would be something we could move towards. It's a beautiful, beautiful representation of the beginning. Thank you.
Blake, to me, is a mystic. A lot of poets are as well. So he sees things that the ordinary person doesn't. And my poem is all deals with innocence. It has, very well known, lots of concrete images. To see a world where there's a globe, a crude drawing, and a grain of sand. Heaven, well, that's the sky, and a wild flower. To hold infinity, for an arrow for infinity, in the palm of your hand, eternity again, how do you represent it? In an hour, there's a clock. And you go on, Robin Redbreast in a cage, well, where's the redbreast? It's more like a toddler's anger. I think it puts all heaven in a rage. They're throughout this poem, it's full of concrete images.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the more we literally see them and believe in them, in your mind's eye, as Blake clearly did, something actually does happen to the spectrum of the voice, and this is the theory and my belief, and certainly the practice will find a home. Thank you.
Mine is maybe more abstract, maybe more of an emotional response. What comes across to me reading Europe is just how it's almost like there are these battles between two things, but characters are constantly added in, and yet it feels like it's just spiraling, maybe not even down, but it's all coming together and it's just constantly kind of moving into one. So yeah, that was the feeling that came across.
So it's the impression of collision, is it? And movement of mind, an attitude, or?
Yeah, and kind of becoming one, but also destroying each other. So, yeah.
I mean, I think that's wonderful. I think really we're trying to say, well, the many minds of Blake, if you like, the many minds we have, how do we can't really necessarily order it, we can just begin to understand the movements through. A lot of this work has been theorised through working on Shakespeare, of course, and theorised by many practitioners. And Cicely Berry, one of the greatest practitioners of voice work in this century, always asks students to move through the mind of Shakespeare on the line. And I think quite clearly we can do something that's similar with Blake. We find that we go in many different directions, and I think even finding that is quite liberating, because you stop just that linearity, which is looking at things on the page. Things just order themselves very differently on the page. Once you've got to get them off and find they move quite differently, and so following the mind and the collisions of the chaos, I think can be quite energizing and important. Thank you.
I was also sharing Europe, and for me, it's having a very otherworldly element with a sort of crystal cabinet, and then ending in sort of blood and tea tears really at the end when walk
Yes.
appears. So I think it's just the two worlds really.
Yeah. Quite a lot about worlds, different worlds. Yeah. Thank you.
The Book of Urizen is full of vast cosmic landscapes and huge processes of concentration and disintegration, which is basically what comes out in this. And then there's the net of religion is cast over everyone's thoughts, and it's all chained down and petrified and solidified. So there's already a vast amount of visual imagery to work with. So if I had a little more skill in rendering it, it would be a bit more vivid. But it's the words that are alive.
Okay. Thank you very much. Wonderful.
I've been reading French Revolution and I'm not quite sure what to make of it yet. So I just filled the page with some of the images that I remember from reading the poem. So I've got like cadaverous sort of kings and sort of rocks and dungeons and towers, and then this like conflagration that's constantly sort of like raging in the background.
Marvellous. Lovely. Thank you very much.
So I'm working on Jerusalem, Emanation Giant Albion. So here we have the basis now. So this is the sleep of Uru, working through the eternal death stage. So this is the soul here, still living. This is the mundane one. And this is the great man, born back. It's the Albion in his highest stage, pulling back the curtain of creation in mundane shadow. And so this is like a Jacob's ladder, and we realize it afterwards. So these are the sons and daughters of Albion in their spiritual form returning to Albion, the endless thing.
Thank you. Lots of directions and lots of content.
It's a journey, yeah.
Sure.
But there's a journey from the mundane to the celestial, beyond our concept and what is.
Mine is, I'm reading Milton, so it's, Milton descends into Blake, so this is like the angel of poetry, I suppose, and then this is like the poet on earth trying to get there. And a tree with fruits and birth, because it's important. The heart and the blood that goes through the veins, the whole body and the voice. And this house, I suppose it's my house or the house of the soul.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This was my impression, at least, of Marriage with Heaven and Hell. Effectively, a lot of bipolarity, the two colours, seemingly opposed, symmetry constantly enforced and undermined. And what was really powerful in all of the sort of events, I suppose, in this work for me was that out of these contrasts, out of these conflicts, unity emerges almost miraculously at the end, and you never know quite where it's coming from. And so that's my attempt, just this wiggle where he's constantly fighting against linearity, simplicity, oversimplification, in this sort of miraculous unity that somehow emerges.
Like a music score.
I didn't actually do mine, and I'd like to talk about it. I know, I just spoke about this lady, I just responded to something, but I didn't actually do mine. And I just want to see if I can speak about it.
Yeah, do.
It's terrible, but these are the sort of four elements and the great forms which are all one and all part of us, the different levels of consciousness. That's loss and the giants, I can't remember their names. And this is what's amazing. That's the self, the spectre, which is selfhood, which is ego, which is self-centeredness, self-love. And this is the kind of grey smoke, which kind of is to do with horizon, I think, which makes things solid and covers everything up.
Oh,
so and this is the fire of love and creativity.
Just briefly, before we come to you, we've done this. Did we start that? It's briefly to say that it's interesting we're picking up a lot of the abstractions. The abstraction is the appeal, I think, that which we cannot name. sometimes we can feel awestruck by that which we cannot name, because that is precisely why Blake speaks to us, because we're speaking of something ineffable, something beyond and beyond. And sometimes it's helpful to just anchor ourselves in something we can visualise. So as a reader we have locations, and I think this is part of this map. Even if they seem to be impossible to really pin down, the more we have an idea, or the beginnings of an idea, what it is in our mind as we speak it. So that we're not speaking, who mentioned speaking that which we don't understand? Sue, yeah. And I think that's a very interesting point. And a lot of reading, I suppose, that we do within active training is that you have, to the best of your ability and your own experience to date, you try to draw from that relationship where you stand. But there are going to be things we open up for the reader that we can't pin down. But that which we can visualise is a helpful clue. So anything that we can see, the objects, the real concrete things, any colours that we become, anything that moves, anything rhythmic that we can get a sense of. And that will give us something to breathe into the text. So we've all got something then. We've now got a piece of paper with something on it or nothing on it. And I'd like us just to do some practical voice work, bearing in mind this text. So what we'll do is position ourselves on these stairs. I'm just going to get some water. It's going to be a break. And we relax our shoulders a little bit and just sense that gravity will help. If you can give in to a few of the easier things, then sometimes we're freer to let that which is unconscious out. And that's really what we're trying to do, I think, with Blake, is to, in some ways, release something from ourselves that can work with his extraordinary visionary capacity. So the body is as good a place as any. So you've got sit bones and you should have nice soft knees. Just allow them not to lock. And I think the key to this work for you is to unlock something. Really, locked bodies really have an impact on your imaginative capacity. And it's very, very subtle how we do that. Welcome. Come on in. Find a seat. We're just about 50 minutes in, but please find a seat. I'm Jane Boston. Perhaps for anybody who's just come in, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
I'm Aloud and I show Little Man, simple piece, and I just thought I'd come to the voice session, which is it's my fault because I left my work at home. So anyways, there we are. So I'm here.
You're here, really lovely.
Yeah.
And hello to the two new people who've come in.
I'm Suzanne Sklar.
Hello.
And I'm working on.
We've
come from Oxford and beyond.
Yeah.
And terrible traffic and delayed trains. And I'm working on algorithms of innocence.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're here. And
my name's Barbara Bellicott, and I'm working on one of the Pickering manuscript poems, which includes Algorithms of Innocence, but she's suddenly picked that one, so I've got to suddenly pick another one.
all right.
That's right.
All right. Well, just briefly, we probably won't have much time in a workshop like this to look on the minutiae of the text in front of us. What we're hoping for is some key strategies to enable you to carry on, leading up to your own recording. And one of the keys we've been working on is just accessing something of a mind map in a general sense through your work. And we're just kind of getting that material going. And now we're just sort of with the body, so that we can just come to some of the voicey or the material aspects of how you will bring your voice to the work that you're going to be reading. And it is your voice after all that's going to be doing the communication. So your voice needs breath, and your breath needs support, and your support needs a space to resonate in. And I think the general frame that we're just looking at here is a great moment actually to arrive. And it's hard when you first come into a strange room, but that notion of settling in and acknowledging what you're sitting on the chair base and trying to get your feet on the ground. And bring those commonalities. Many of you, I think some of you trained as actors, am I right? Is that a yes? And a yes, actor. Anybody? Yes. A few people familiar with the processes, which just try to say, how can I bring my mind and body together in some degree, so that I'm not sort of separate and schematically just heading to the head. I think the temptation is that we just are so inspired that we tend to think it's all up here, but we've got to get the inspiration of the breath to really settle it right. So we're finding a postural setup that will give us repose for the breath to contact and move, and hopefully to stir something of the mind's eye. Something of the mind's eye. So soft elbows. Give the ribs. Now it's always nice to work the opposite before you actually find freedom. And that's just to encase yourself a little tightly. So if you bring the elbows really closely into the rib cage, and you imagine that there's a lot of pressure made to bear that they couldn't move, and just feel the notion of rigidity that gives you, and sort of how that's impacted right the way through the system. And it could be you can make that metaphorical, the binding chains, or you can make it just literally in this room right now, you can't move and the ribs don't draw breath. So loosen the elbows, soften the shoulder, and just feel the joy of suddenly letting that limitation loose, and enjoying that you've got a back, enjoying that you've got something to sit on, enjoying that your feet are on the ground, enjoying that you've got some capacity to find length and breadth. And I think that's going to be helpful to you at the time you do your reading, and also now as you're developing the voice for that really, because breath gives us you. We can also find cheap breath, half breath and false breaths that don't seem to come from anywhere. If you just imagine you had breath, imagine at the moment you just had breath sort of at the top of the chest, and it's a very shallow breath, and it's one that you struggle for, and it's just try it for a moment. It feels uncomfortable, as if you've got no lower body, no legs and no ground. It all comes just like little snifters. And you're drawing on a very, very small pond of breath. What's the feeling like to draw in a small space of that breath? Just anything? Harmful? For some of us, breath is not always easy. It's not necessarily something we always find, that deep breath. But if we can, but we don't have any judgment about that, we're just trying to get something flowing. Something flowing where it comes in and it goes out, and it comes in and it goes out. So we at least have a good half a chance at coping with the breath of Blake's thinking and feeling. So I want to sigh. If you can sigh something out that is a release, a sigh of relief and a sigh of release. And it may even be the fact that you've just got here and that gives you enough of a capacity. We know those of us that know our Blake. Release is an important part of his taxonomy, his belief system. So the opposite of release is what? I mean, what is the opposite? Yeah. Stimulating, yes. That grip, yeah. Confinement. Restriction, indeed. There are any numbers of quick parallels we can find in ordinary life and in a lifetime of being a human being that we felt those confinements. So I think we have an opportunity therefore to find an expansion. How are we doing over there? Are my words, are we okay? It's all right. Okay, good. So we're situated here, and I want us to think about the space in front of us. And it's a bit like it's a continuation of the ribs, a continuation of the belly, and it's a continuation of our sort of full being into this space in front of us. And that works all the way up the chest, and it works all the way up the larynx, and it works right the way through that body. And I want us just to think about a hand gesturing for drawing that breath, that nice situated breath up our body and just out into the space. And there's no reason that has to sound like anything in particular. It's simply you're drawing the breath with a consciousness that you have more space perhaps than usual from your chair and into the space. Yeah. And what that does is a sense that we're drawing from a slightly deeper well than usual. A deeper well of breath. A deeper place situated in the sit bones. Yeah, you can be Blakean into the genitals, into the deep underbelly, right the way through that lovely rich centre. Open, expand the chest, soften the shoulders, and out we come. And on that sigh, and I use both hands there because I don't want to be just right-handed about it. Try the other hand for a moment, depending on. So you're drawing forth the fibres of that breath, and powering it out. Okay, so it has to have an out. That materiality, and draw on it, and at this stage in an evening it can sound the cross between a yawn, it can sound like a yawn or a sigh or a groan. Doesn't really matter, but it's connected somehow. Try both hands now. So it's like you knit the hands together, they join, draw that sense of and whatever we have, we get out. And as we know, we don't have any sound unless we've got the breath to power that sound, those sound waves. So we're really drawing on an engine room, our own engine room there, that says it's there, it's situated, and this position I'm asking you to find gives you the best optimum invitation for that breath. It's just a good invitation. A bit hard to find perhaps later in the day, isn't it, when we're perhaps veering on the idea of falling asleep. If you can find it as something that's got some energy to it, an action in your mind that says, I'm literally going to find this energy. It's up my legs, I'm going to draw up my legs, I'm going to draw it up through the pelvis, I'm going to draw it up through the chest, and some meditative type pose, and it just allows us to think about the ebb and flow of the breath. And I just like you to think about the hands rather as if there's seaweed, flotsam and jetsam. Just allow the sense that the palms, in some way, and the fingertips and the full fingers can respond to the breath in and the breath out. I often think of a sea anemone or something, just something kind of just, something that opens a little and just gently shuts a little. And just find your own version of that, your own version of how does the breath come in. And this is almost like a visual representation. Yeah. And remember, there's no right and no wrong. It's simply find something for yourself that reflects the movement of the breath. And the breath can, at this time of night, if you wish it to come through the nostrils and you're happy keeping the mouth shut, lovely, you're warming that breath, you've been kind to it, you can often hear it quite well. And if you want to open the lips and let it in through the mouth, it's quite fine too. It's quite nice if you can have a visual representation through the palms. Something that opens and something that gently empties, yeah. And it's to your own impression. It's nothing you have to arrive at. Lovely. And if we like, the breath that comes in gives us the capacity to think and feel. The breath that goes out gives us the reflective, communicative vapour. It gives us our expression. And at this level one is just sighing it out and bringing a little bit of vibration to that. In your own time, just experience the difference between a sigh that has no voice, just a kind of, just like breath. It's like a will-o'-the-wisp. It's like the vapours we're finding in some of Blake's work, that which we cannot see or know, just breath. Breath without sound, even. See if you can produce breath as literally warm air misting your palm, misting the room. You want to bring one palm up just gently to your base. You can just blow the air very gently across it with a soft, warm H. Try just a hot H. It's a kind of... Now, you can have an audible H like this. Quite a lot of friction, quite a lot of coming together. So reduce that by 99.9% and just have lovely warm breath, just misting the mirror of your hand. Just no audible frictions away. It can just be just warm breath, just warming. The breath that warms, yes? We know if we're cold, we probably make a bit more sound. We kind of go, really. In this case, the simplest possible opening of your instrument just is warm air. Then, if we wish, we can bring a little more energy to it, a little more. So fill the world with that sigh of. And if you go further with that, those of us that are used to the stage whisper, you can find something. And if we spoke several hellos, so imagine we did our Blakean reading on that whispered hello, hello, hello. What happens to our potential on that whisper? It uses up quite a lot of breath. Hello, 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 hello. Sort of emptying the breath quite in. One could get a little dizzy, potentially. Maybe that would be quite interesting to get dizzy and do this. Just try something that comes to mind that's Blakean on that kind of something whispered, something magisterial. ethereal, something ethereal. Is there anything ethereal you can put to that breath? And then just think about what that felt like. Anybody feel dizzy? Anybody feel they could get dizzy? Anybody feel like one has an output of simple just gas, then there's something about that charges us in a certain kind of way. And it's fun sometimes for effect. Breath is an interesting quality in and of itself. But what we're trying to find is how we find the breath that supports the voice we wish to use. And that's a different physics altogether. So there's something about combining that idea that we let something out. But now this time we're going to not just sigh it, we're going to just try and bring the beginnings of sound, vibration. Just take your hand to your larynx and just wherever you feel that the sound box is, the local bump, and just feel it's very movable there. And just do a sort of and then combine the two. So you're going to, with the free hand, you're going to draw the breath in, and then you're going to find that That's it, wonderful. So what we've got in the room all of a sudden is a free sound with the breath helping us produce that vibration. And that is an ideal way to begin to find the resonances of his work, let alone the content. It's about finding something of resonance in you. So just go back to this strange feeling. For some people it's kind of awkward, isn't it? That sense it's pliable, it's amazing that everything happens at this tiny junction of the larynx here, the vocal folds and the vibration. But just be soft and kind to it and just imagine that it's just going to soften here and just relax. So the larynx is not something that we have to think about really too much, but we're allowing it a passage of point softness, and release. Good. And then what we've got underneath our fingertips is also that feeling of vibration. Yeah? So just enjoy that. So we should feel the touch of that and then in the room. Yeah. Lovely. Lovely. Really lovely. So we have vibration and we have dimension. And one of the lovely things also is to think about finding a place between the person opposite you. So you're not directing anything at the person opposite you, you're directing at the space between people opposite you. That's going to be your space to direct this sound for a moment. And what I want us to do is just draw the breath and to that place between the people opposite, direct So it's your direction of sound and thought and colour that's going to be your Blakean line, beginning your Blakean journey. Not to anyone at the moment, just to a sort of infinity. And the infinity point, try and find the eye level of the people opposite. And then go to the space in between, and that should give you a good optimum position. So you're going, lovely, and let it come up and over. That's even nicer. It goes up and up. Really nice. So it comes up from your body, goes up, higher up, and lands down. Gives a nice setup here in the larynx and keeps something nice and free. Good. So just move your face a little bit. Somebody sets up some rules and it usually sets up something of tension here. So just try and keep this as free as possible. Try and keep those cheeks nice and free. And because this is part of the sounding change that you're producing, bringing to the story. So cheeks are nice and pudgy. And just blow them out for a minute. And just switch that energy into the centre now. Imagine these are the big caves, the big sounding caves of your sound. And the bottom of the cave is supplied by, what's the bottom of your cave, the mouth? This tongue, yeah. So the cave is got a movable floor. And of course, that's going to be something you're going to have to do a lot of work with, getting your tongue around this sculptural words you've got in front of you, but just be kind to it for the moment and just allow it to sort of situate itself at the bottom of the cave of the mouth. And just relax the jaw, relax the tongue. And just slobber it around with it. If you like, it's a bit of a metaphor for how am I going to do this thing. I know it feels like it's not going to do it. It's almost like you can bring all the kind of the fear, I'm not going to get, it's not going to work, I'm not going to get pronunciation. Just let it go. Extraordinary muscle that is the tongue, and just giving it a sort of bit of an outing before we put our mind to it in any sense. Right, something that is strange and a little bit voicey. It helps if you're not facing anybody, but face that space between people again once I've set up the exercise. If you want to place your tongue tip behind your bottom teeth, and I want you just to think about waving the tongue out like a wave from the ocean. So helpful if you just face that to your gap between the people opposite and just go. Okay. So it takes some perfecting this, but once you've got it, it's unmistakable. Because what it's actually doing is opening the back of the throat and giving some free space. Is to think about what's the opposite. If the tongue didn't come out, it goes back and down. Imagine you sort of swallow it for a minute. Just give me the sound of your tongue not coming out. Probably sound like English people normally. Tied to the muscular system, but you're going to give it a little bit more life than usual. Then anchor that tongue tip again, back to that one we did before, anchor the tongue tip to the bottom of the teeth. And then this is the bit where you have to be brave, is that you're just letting an inchoate sound out. You're not having to, it's not got any linguistic binding, it's not got any sense to it, but it's actually the free sound. And that's what we're trying to get hold of this evening. So, anchor that tongue tip behind the bottom teeth and just let yourself really enjoy that release up and down. Move the tongue at the same time. Let's do a little routine. Top having to workshop these things tend to get strangely restricted. So the temples, behind the eyes, and the back of the head, top of the head, just place a palm there, just to say, that's where I am, that doesn't need to be tight. Back of the head, nice and long and supple. Just behind the eyes, right behind, underneath the sinuses here, and behind the eyes, just nice and soft. I read you had an Alexander workshop with one of your, is that right? You've done some Alexander technique? Yeah. Exactly what I'm pulling on here, that sense of direction through the body and soften where you can. So we'll activate more of you. Good, all right. So, let's just think about the map you've drawn. And I want us to close our eyes for a moment. We've not all got a map with pictures on it, but most of us do. If you haven't got pictures, just think about the images of the text that you've worked on and are going to work on. Anything that comes to mind. And again, we're not working on logic. What we're going to do is now apply some of this free work just in the sense of sign something out. And it may have a word to it now, or it may be an abstract sound. But just think about what we've been through. Keep your feet on the ground. Keep the ankles soft, the knees soft. Keep that lower breath available. And keep the pictures in your mind vivid with breath. So you want to breathe first. And think about your map and start to breathe a key image. And I want you to sigh it out into the space. So we're finding a nice free arc breath on one of the images from your map, one of the images from your text. It may be coherent, it may not be. It may simply be colour or light or a feeling. But I'd like you to commit to it. And it doesn't matter what it is. Commit to it. And I'd like to see if we can refine it down to one image that just keeps occurring to you. Maybe from your map, maybe you've gone beyond your map. And I want you to say, in your mind, let it grow. Just let it grow with your breath. Each time you bring the breath to it, you're infusing more colour, more of you into that particular image or sequence or abstraction. Keep putting the physical breath sound to it, the physical breath. Search for it with the breath that you've got. Give yourself breath. And something comes out on the sound waves. So I'd like us to stay with wherever we are in that process, because I'm now going to ask us to change the shape of the room so that we can actually put the full body into this. So this will be the next stage of this imagining. So what we're going to do is, without too much ado, I want half the chairs to the mirror, half the chairs to this side of the room, and your maps and belongings likewise. So we'll clear the space. Thank you. journey now from the feet all the way up to the mind's eye, the eye line, and then your horizon. And just try to think what comes up as we face our humanness as we stand up. Got an evolutionary quality to it. We're trying to keep some of that feeling that we had when we were using the chair base, comfort of that. Now we're finding exactly the same framework, we're just standing and dealing with other issues of gravity, but nothing should change. Soft ankles, soft knees, a nice sense of the full frame. And here we have a lovely, really great sense that we can draw that breath up with the right hand and send it out. Lovely. And let's draw up with the opposite hand, so we're drawing up through the energy fibers of the body. Lovely. So that's the clear, free breath, moving in the space, moving towards a listener. And that's ultimately the listener who's going to be perceiving and hearing your work. And it's on these sound waves from your body material that you're going to make your unique reading. So this is the key fundamental point of this workshop, really. That here we're drawing on your self-energy, drawing that inspiration. Here it comes to sound. And if we can have a free sound on a beautiful breath, and then as we make that sound, our image is committed to the opposite wall. So whatever your image is, incoherent or abstract, whatever it is, let's do both hands so we reunite both sides of the body. And this representation is kind of the pelvis, really, the power seat of our energy. So we're going to draw that breath up. Point, we're going to make sound waves. Lovely. Commit to that as long as you can. And then the need for the new breath comes right back off that L line. Lovely. And what we're beginning to hear, some of us are finding a sort of intoning, where we're really taking that beyond conversation into that, almost that sung, that Blakeian sung moment, which you appreciate no end, I know. So we move very simply from the spoken, the civilized, the ordinariness. With the breath, we start moving towards the image and lovely. Can we start to find we've got as much energy for that sound that we can have, so that we don't feel strangulated at the end of that sound. So stop whenever you're free. The point is stays as long as you can, and then the body will rebreathe for you. So see what's happening now to the mind's eye, the pictures behind your eyes, wherever your inner sensibility is at work. We've got some outer work going on here, but we need to bring that inner material, drawing up through the body, drawing that unconscious connection, drawing it out in breath and out. Really nice. And just watch when that inclination to move forward with a bit image puts you off balance. Because then we don't get such a free impulse. We don't get such free material from you. So I think that this is a good learning point really for staying upright, staying on this lovely sort of positioning with both your feet, and that the message comes from inside without the body having to reach. So you've got more potency, more power if you just stay upright and let the voice carry, let the breath carry. Yes? So try that one more time. Just briefly, just stretching your foot. Getting your stretch your palms. If you stretch up into the space above you. Okay, and stretch to the spaces to the side. To the tips of your fingers. And then find a diagonal. And another diagonal. And a space in front of you. And the diagonals, that's right. So there are lots of planes of energy. We've been working on one plane, but of course being Blake, we've got to think about the energy moving in myriad directions. Alright, so just think about that. So Alexander shows us very much that if you think about the world behind you, your back gets involved, and the potential of all that energy and imagination backwards, because we're a very linear, forward-facing people, and it's helpful to move out of that and find both dimensions. Shake that out. Shake, you know. As Blakey shakes, how we find something free energy. Lovely, alright. So then we go back to our initial exercise, which is to knit the fingers together to be the pelvis, drawing that up, finding that lovely movable energy, arcing it up, having the image in the mind's eye, sighing it out. Or you're a state of awe, or you're a state of woe, or you're a state of abject misery, you're a state of power, I want you to just take it a little bit further. Just stretch the feeling. Stretch the feeling. It might stretch the shape, it will stretch your mind certainly. It's just let the body fibre feel the shape you are in, and don't be afraid to stretch it. If your arms are up, they can go a bit further up. If you're twisted, twist a bit more. If you're soft, be softer. If you're sturdy, be sturdier. If you're off balance, how off balance can you be and still stay upright? That's right. So it's a question sometimes of letting the body shape stir the inner workings. That's right. Okay, it's nice. Feel something that's inescapable about this shape that you've arrived at, because it's your shape in response to something that your mind's eye has given you. And then when you're ready, I want you to be able to say something in this shape. It might be a sound or it might be a word now, but say something with the breath like this. Yes.
Launch out the swords.
Thinking about what's around that, what the fabric is. Is it ephemeral? Is it concrete? Is it something that hots up? Is it something that's cooling? Is it just something? So you get some sort of sensory awareness around this. It doesn't have to be trying not to be literal about it. It just might be hot or cold or elusive. Concrete, solid, groanable, vulnerable. The key thing is to keep that breath. If you're pushing against something, it is absolutely going to bring so much out of you. And I want you to see, if you take it to an extreme, what does the voice sound like as you say your lies? Okay, good. Marvellous. So what happens if you change the geography of this particular shape and you just can only move backwards? So you have to be very careful of each other. What happens if you disorientate yourself and you move backwards with your image and your picture? When you get there, is a backwards version of it. A bit like Blake, writing and engraving backwards, you know. He had to reorientate himself. So moving backwards is a strange thing. Careful to stay. Arrive at your image backwards and then see what happens. Thinking that you've got eyes in the back of your back. You're facing that way. Try the same thing. Breath, sound, and speak out your image. See the world backwards. It's stranger, isn't it? See what's happening. Say it out. Don't be afraid to say the word, the image, the colour, the shapes. Yes. Backwards is your only direction. Is there a vulnerability in that? There's a vulnerability in backwards, isn't there? Vulnerability in backwards. So now you can move backwards and forwards at different paces. Does your piece give you fast momentum? Does your moment, does your image, or is it really slow? So you can move, yeah, okay, move slowly forwards and then backwards. Finding what the voice is doing with those provocations. Go forwards or backwards, slow or fast. And speak when you get there. Speak forwards. There we go. Now, heaven, give us something we can feed on. Speak, don't be afraid of the sound of your voice. So there's something sculptural, something three-dimensional, something material, something moving. Lovely. Okay. I want you to think about where you are in time and space, and I just want us to just hear everybody where they're at, whatever you've got in your shape. And I just want you to drop something into the pool. So we'll start up there with Nick, and we'll move around. Just where you are. Just sound out what you're feeling and what you've got, Nick. No thoughts? Just do it. What was in your mind? What image you did?
Of a root.
Root. Just root.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah, I was hanging from a root above the abyss.
A root. Go. Give me root. Just say root.
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 Root. Okay, good. Okay, we've got a root there. Good. We've got lost. Lost backwards, lost forwards. Yeah, lost. So the body lost. Okay, lost skin over here. Nurturing. Nurturing. Giant. nurturing, put that into the shape. Tim?
Great eternity.
Great eternity. Space moving there, lovely. Back there.
Smile.
Lovely, lovely. Expand the muscularity. So that's really what I'm asking for. It's just like the word or the image you have kind of moves with the shape you're making. So root grasping, or let's see yours again, Tim.
Great eternity.
Great eternity. There's something of the body kind of speaking the thought there. And lost. It was lost, yeah? Lost. You feel lost. Was it LOST?
Yeah.
Yeah. What you can do is find your body in a bit of twizzle. Just put your body in a bit of a twizzle. So that you're kind of lost. And then say lost. 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 Yes. It's sort of getting that physical body behind the sound. Good, good. Let's go on. That's lovely. Yeah.
Years.
Years. Years.
Yeah, I did have like a down, but then I thought it was probably just
Years. Okay. Years. So you can grow up. So stand up for us on that word. Say it.
Years.
Keep going.
Years.
Years. Keep going.
Years.
Years. Years. Expand on it. Years. And the word.
Years.
Years. Good. Okay, it's just sort of making that physical life expand. And you. Lovely. So there's a sort of very internal, very physical, very sort of lonesome, mournful. Let's hear it again. Yeah. Woven fine. Lovely. So sort of keening as well into that, and it comes sort of right the way through that could be maternal sort of shape and binding. Lovely, really lovely. Dreaming, lovely. Dreaming is in the dreaming of that shape. It's fantastic. Kind of gravity's slightly at one, and you're not fair and square on. It's lovely off centre. Dreaming, perfect, lovely.
Whoa.
Lovely, and that lovely quality that sound went in a different way because the body was leading that as well, communing with that. It's lovely.
Broken arch.
Lovely, broken arch, and it's somehow with something bringing the fibrousness of that into it, and the visuality of it. Lovely. Good.
Darkness.
So something out, touching it, darkness, and then back to the sun. Lovely, thank you. Lovely. We get a lovely bit of that cave. If we'd done it literally, we wouldn't have got that thing stuck. It's kind of getting stuckness out of that because you're stuck literally in the body. It gives us that shape. That's lovely, thank you.
Awake!
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 It's quite palpable. Fantastic. Awake. That's all lovely.
Uncertain,
Yeah. Okay. Uncertain.
trepidatious,
Yeah. So there's something back, something
walking
forward,
backwards.
walking backwards, but in the future there's a past. Yeah, just sort of, the body can start to give us so much material voice sound and consciousness. Lovely, thank you.
World. I'm holding up a globe.
You are. You can feel it. You can feel it. The weight of that, and it's a bit like a world. And let it drop into the belly a bit. A world.
A world.
World. Yeah. Really find a weight in the body and the weight in the voice. A world.
A world.
World. Fantastic. Lovely. Something interesting about that. The formation. Like there's something formed. Something of angularity. Something of lightness. Lovely. And make the body into closer.
Power.
Power.
Fear.
A bold statement and then a back leg fear. So that's like that. So quite a lot of this will be push me, pull you. Where the body wants to go, where it's also going, and the dimensionality brings that something. Think you want to have them go? Root.
Root.
Root. So one says it and pictures it and then starts to feel the action of, it might not make sense, but it's sort of just bringing that fibrousness down. Okay, well, good. Everybody, if you want to just neutralise that moment, there you go. And where we've been doing this quite a long time and you need a break, about the word or image or thought that you just had. And just with a palm, like that. So we form our circle again. So it's all the time, it's about experimenting to free something, and then going back, because of course we're always dealing with words, and words are about being human and being ordinary. So we're having to be both extraordinary and ordinary at the same time. So this kind of brings us a little bit back to the ordinary. I'll just say something, and what we should do is echo each other's. That would be nice. So if you'd like to follow me, breath. These chains.
These chains.
Mike will give it to us, and then we'll follow you. Yes, please.
But maybe.
That
Maybe.
Lost.
Lost.
Please.
Ascending.
Ascending.
My shelter.
My shelter.
Palaces.
Remember, it's coming from us. Let's not get a bit afraid of where it's coming from. Lovely.
Crystal.
Lovely.
Crystal.
Lovely.
Power.
Power.
A world.
A world. Lovely.
Trepidation.
Trepidation.
Awake.
Awake. Stuck.
Stuck.
Yeah.
Arch of gold.
Arch of gold.
Envil.
Envil.
Wow.
Lovely.
In
In
Eden.
Eden.
Yes.
Yes.
Woe woven fine.
Woven fine.
A smile of love.
A smile of love.
Great eternity.
Great eternity. So lovely, lovely work. It starts to become of you, and something comes into the room that's come from our spontaneous, hopeful connection with the task we've got. So we've got quite a lot in the pot that's rather lovely and physical and alive. Let's hope we don't lose that. If we take is it 10 minutes all right for everybody to take a break? All right, if we can come back here at 5
We can't go outside the building though, can we, without someone opening us in?
You can go out of the building as long as someone opens that green button for you, so you can stand.
Someone has to do it.
Someone has to be on duty, yes. At 5-2, because we've got a short interval, really. So thank you. Very good.
Yes, hi.